Hey guys, Lancer here. Hope everyone's doing well. Thanks for joining me while looking to some more MTG Magic and see how the revised edition seems to match up with a lot of other inflation hedges that have been happening. I think as far as collectible markets goes, I was always interested to see what would happen with other assets, or at least as far as other items that people could buy instead of just collectibles. Because obviously we know from some of the collectibles, Pokemon, Magic, that they all moved up at about the same time everywhere. And they moved up for a very specific reason, which is preventing, pretty much because of the amount of liquidity that was put into the system, the amount of people that could spend money on anything jumped up by a large amount. So people that got the checks in the mail or people that were working in businesses, they could spend their money how they wanted to after they received it from the government, printed it out of thin air. So that's obviously going to cause inflation. It didn't come from the top, which then gives it to assets. It came in from the bottom, which can then go into smaller objects like food, staples, collectibles, and cars. Now, the reason why I'm bringing up cars is on the screen I have the revised edition going all the way back to, let's say, Jan 2020. And we can see that January 2020 flatlined and then a bit of a drop. And then April 2020 came up and then it spiked up to a decent amount. So it went from 2,900 to $3,000 revised edition, the complete set, to 5,000. So that's almost a 100%, but more like 80% gain. And then you can have a look at the cars. So this is from 2019, but you know what? Let's just make it 2020 and make that the first. Update the chart. And I'm just going to have a look at the chart because you got 2020, so first of 2020, we had flat lines, and then around about the 6th of 27th of 2022, not much movement, still dropping, and then it just jumps up and goes pretty crazy at almost a 13% increase right there. So you got an 80% increase in revised edition, 13% increase in cars, and then this trend just continues on again on March 2021. And if we go over here, we can see on January of 2021 to Feb of 2021, when I started my YouTube channel, massive increase in interest for revised edition, where it jumped from 4,800 to almost 9,000. So that is actually a 100% jump. So 80%, 100%. So 180% jump for Magic in, what's that, 6 months, 7 months. And the only explanation for both of these is the amount of money that was flushed into the market. So you got to think about it. It's not the fact that one person that gets given $1,000 can all of a sudden go and buy a car that's worth $10,000. It's that one person that had value or an asset like a house or something similar got all of this extra money, and then they use that money to buy other assets or other items that were in demand, but at the same time they were not being made at anywhere near the way to kind of cover the demand. So used cars, they went up because new cars had a 6 months to 1 year wait time because 30,000 components are needed to make cars now. And you got 30,000 components to make one normal modern car, and you got the chip issue and Shanghai and China closing down, and all of these just stack up on top of each other. Now the thing with Magic is you got products being made all over the place. And that's going to cause issues because at some point the supply line is going to get bottled up, and you got freighters and cargo. What are those containers? The cargo containers that have probably gone up in price by like 4 times at this point. And when you add those all together, it just increases the price of anything that needs to move around. Even now, I've apparently just got a mail that said that my heads I win, tails you lose. Is that the one? Commander set has been delayed to, I think, 3rd or 4th quarter this year. It was meant to be end of 1st quarter or start of 2nd quarter, but now it's almost been delayed by 6 months or for at least 3 months. And I think this is just going to happen more and more because there's something weird going on with the shipping industry, and there's also some weird stuff happening with just what the governments are doing about it. So you got on the US side where they're trying to make things a bit smoother, and you got on the China side where they're actually trying to make things harder. And there's a lot of speculation of why they're doing it. It almost feels like what China's doing is they're trying to keep the inflation in the US and not let it come to China. Because remember, if China makes all the stuff that the US wants to buy and there's no issues, then all the money that the US has been printing will go to China and inflate away their assets. But if China stops the people from making what the US wants, then they can't sell it to the US, so they can't get all the inflation. It doesn't have to be, but it's just that a lot of the currency that the US uses is now stuck in the US, which is causing a lot more inflation than probably what the government thought or what the government planned. If everything was running smoothly, maybe it wouldn't have been as much of an issue. But it's really interesting to see what's going to happen in the next couple of days, especially in the next couple of months, because if the Federal Reserve is truly trying to fight inflation, they're going to have to raise interest rates aggressively to shock the market, and they're going to have to raise interest rates higher than the inflation rate is right now. I can't imagine them raising it to 9%. So what they're going to do is they're going to have to shock the system and scare the markets. And if they scare the markets well enough, guess what? It'll impact the revised edition. It'll impact car prices because people will just think we're about to lose jobs and go into recession. But I think the Federal Reserve is too scared for that. Now, if they really are too scared for it, then crypto is still a good bet. But when it comes to cars and collectibles and crypto, which I would consider in the same part as collectibles, which is why I didn't go as heavily into crypto this time, especially not right now. I went more heavily before. But certainly right now, it's very iffy what's going to happen to it. If it stays below the 40,000, it's going to be hard to make it, or at least hard to get back into it above 40. If it goes above 40, maybe there's a chance, but I think it has to go above 42 and stay there. Yeah, so I was looking at used cars just because it's something that I was kind of interested in, especially with all of these videos out there on how to change a car into a bed, or at least a camper van. But yeah, they have gone out of control, where right now most of them are sitting at above 30% increase. And revised edition, as far as I can tell, there is not much fear because you can still see a small uptick in the markets. And if the governments get a bit more relaxed and they decide to put some more money into the market, then revised edition is probably something that you still want to collect slowly over time. And I would start with pretty much the best part about revised, the dual lands. I actually remember, I think someone from yesterday had a comment saying they're going to start collecting dual lands, and I think this is actually not a bad time to get your foot into the market. Some of the dual lands have actually dropped quite a bit, and there's some valuable near mint to lightly played. I would probably stick with near mint and lightly played as my two choices from now on. I made a mistake with some of the earlier ones where I decided to go for cheap instead of quality, and I got some really cheap but not good quality early dual lands. But luckily I did get some of the better dual lands in near mint. I'd say stick with near mint and lightly played and just leave them up and take care of them. And don't forget to do the test to make sure they got those 4 red dots in the back of them, because there could be some weird stuff happening nowadays where people are trying to scam you. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. This was just a quick cover on exactly what's happening between at least used cars, revised edition, crypto. It looks like they're all tied together now. Revised edition and crypto, obviously speculation with a bit of collectability, and used cars very much to do with supply chain and the fact that new cars are going to be 6 months to 1 year out. But because they moved at the same time, in my mind, very much tied together. If I brought up house prices, let's say in America, I bet there would be a trend very similar to that, but just in smaller amounts. Cars might have moved up by 35%, houses might have moved up by 25%, revised edition Magic cards might have moved up by 180%, and Bitcoin might have moved up by 400%. But all of those are to do with how risky they are. 180% for revised edition could also mean 180% drop. 400% for Bitcoin could mean can't drop by an 80% drop. Also, there's no way that revised edition can drop by 180%, but it could drop by 30%, 40%. And same thing with used cars, they might have gone up by 57%, 45%, 55, 45%. They might drop down by 35% and might catch up to where they were just a couple of years ago. But that all depends on what's going to happen with the Federal Reserve. So I'll keep you guys updated. Thanks again and have a good one. See ya.